안녕하세요, Cloud입니다. Hey guys, Cloud here. Welcome back to another lesson recap. Today we'll be learning time words like before and after. Alright, let's get into it. This lesson is divided into 4 parts. 전. 전 means before or ago, as in I left, or like before I left, or 3 weeks ago. So for example, 저는 5분 전에 고쳤어요. The clouds cleared up 5 minutes ago. Get it? I said 저는 because my name's Cloud. You get the joke, right? I swear I have an on-point sense of humor. It's not a dad joke, I swear. Okay, fine. 구름은 5분 전에 그쳤어요. On a more serious note, this lesson we're introduced to a very powerful tool that we'll use in this lesson, but we'll really go into depth with it in Unit 2. That's 기 전에. This entire time, whenever we used time words, like 3 months ago or 5 minutes ago, we're talking about an amount of time. What if I wanted to say before my mom came? Well, that's not an amount of time. We aren't using any duration, but rather we're using a verb as our point of reference. By adding 기 to the verb stem of a word, you make it into a noun. Then you can use 전에 or 후에. No, well, you can't use 후에, but you can use 전에 or other things that I'm holding off explaining because we'll see it in lesson 29. Alright, let's look at an example. 엄마가 오기 전에 나는 먹었어. Before mom came, I ate. Now here's the fun part. This lesson has about 5 pages worth of an explanation on 2-clause sentences, like the ones we're going to start making from now on, with an emphasis on which clause gets 는 and which gets 이가. The particle 는 can be placed only on one of them, so you must choose wisely. I'm sure you've already read that section and you're an absolute expert at this, but here's my attempt at squishing all of that information into 60 seconds. Alright, let's look at this example. 구름이 걷히기 전에 비가 왔어요. Before the clouds cleared, it rained. The sentence has 2 clauses. Before the clouds cleared and it rained. The only thing we really need to worry about is which one of these is the main clause. All you need to do is ask yourself what happened. In this case, it rained. That's the main clause. The second clause answers questions like when did it happen, why did it happen, those kind of questions. So if you're unsure, if you pick the right main clause, ask yourself, does this make sense on its own? In this case, it rained. Perfect. Complete sentence. Makes complete sense. Wow. Before the clouds cleared. Something's missing. It's not a full sentence. It doesn't make sense on its own. That's because it's not the main clause. Now the main clause is the one that gets 는 or un. But cloud stem, in the example sentence you just showed us, both clouds and rain have e or ka, and there's no un or none to be found. Well, my dear Watson, 는 doesn't necessarily have to be used. It depends on what you're trying to say. Remember we learned the differences between 이, 가, and 는 already? So I won't be going over them, but it just depends on what you're trying to say. The point is, if you're going to use 는, then it has to be attached to the main clause. Let's look at this example. 한국에 오기 전에 저는 한국어를 배웠어요. I learned Korean before I came to Korea. Now let's break it down. What did I do? I learned Korean. When did I do it? Before I came to Korea. You can see that 저는 한국어를 배웠어요. I learned Korean uses 은, or I guess in this case 는 on 저는. One last note. Since I'm the subject of both things, so both clauses, so I went to Korea and I learned Korean, I can just drop one of them because it's repetitive. It's like repetitive, and Koreans love shortening things, as we've learned. Okay, that took longer than 60 seconds, but no one's really counting, so let's look at after. 후에. Instead of adding 기 to the verb stem, like with 기 전에, for 후에 you add 니은 or 은. So for example, 나는 저녁 먹은 후에 숙제할 거야. I'll do my homework after dinner. 10분 후에 먹을 거예요. I'm going to eat in 10 minutes. You can also use 다음 instead of 후. So 과자를 많이 먹은 다음에 배가 아팠어요. After eating a lot, my stomach was sore. Alright, part 3. 이대로. Although 이대로 means since, it's not really used. You'd most likely use 후에 instead. So instead of saying 한국에 온 이대로 한국어를 배우고 있어요, you'd say 한국에 온 후에 한국어를 배우고 있어요. After coming to Korea, I've been learning Korean. Alright, 안에 and 안 and 이내. We learned previously that 안에 can mean to be inside of something, like inside of a box or inside of a house. Well, let's see how to say inside of a time period. 우리는 1년 이내 결혼할 거예요. And 우리는 1년 안에 결혼할 거예요. These both mean we will get married within 1 year. The sentences have the same meaning. Alright, that's it for this lesson. The next lesson will be the last one in Unit 1. We're currently taking suggestions for improvements, additions, things you didn't like, you don't want to see anymore, things you want to see in Unit 2, all that good stuff. Let us know what you want to see, either on Facebook, Twitter, or by leaving a comment down below.